Namaste, welcome to JK Yoga International Gita Festival. This is a unique festival that celebrates the timeless wisdom of Gita. Swami Mukundananda's new commentary on Bhagavad Gita has been released on Amazon, and this makes this Gita festival very special. The International Gita Festival hosts 30 plus creative contests for all ages based on the commentary of Bhagavad Gita by Swamiji. There will be a lot of educational and entertaining programs such as live interaction with special guests and Swamiji, Gita Pandit Award, fun activities for children, and many more. And the best part of the festival is the wonderful program called Har Ghar Gita, through which you will be able to distribute this timeless wisdom of Gita to people around the globe. Through this initiative, you will be able to donate copies of Swamiji's Gita to many deserving souls. Madhu Reddy ji is offering a match for every Bhagavad Gita donated during the International Gita Festival. This is a great way to double your contribution toward this divine cause. So, if you donate 50 books, another 50 will be matched and donated by Reddy ji. Isn't that an amazing deal? Bhagavad Gita literally means the song of God. They are divine words spoken by Shri Krishna, the Supreme Lord Himself. This sacred, timeless wisdom has transformed the lives of millions of people around the world, including mine and my family. Swamiji's realized wisdom makes this commentary on Bhagavad Gita absolutely beautiful. It plants a seed of devotion in our hearts that will forever keep blooming. The most favorite Bhagavad Gita verse for me and my family is 15.9. That means those who know me without doubt as Supreme Divine Personality truly have complete knowledge. O Arjun, they worship me with their whole being. Such a beautiful verse from Shri Krishna and explained so well by Swamiji in his commentary. To know more, get your copy today and get a few more for your friends as well. We will now move on to the Gita Insight for Everyday Living segment, in which Swami Mukundananda ji will be shedding light on making our practice perfect. Swami Mukundananda is a world-renowned spiritual leader, international authority on mind management, bestseller, author, founder of yogic system called JK Yoga, Vedic scholar, Bhakti saint, and he is also a youth icon. Swamiji graduated from the most prestigious institute of the world, IIT Delhi and IIM Kolkata. He is the disciple of Jagadguru Shri Kripaluji Maharaj. Swamiji for the last 3 decades has been traveling far and wide, awakening hundreds and thousands of seekers. His purpose is to share the finest gems of realized wisdom acquired from a lifetime of purity, dedication, and surrender. In his writings, he quotes liberally from all the major Indian sacred texts and the Eastern and the Western system of philosophy. He is the best-selling author of numerous books. He is extremely popular on various social media channels with combined followers of 5 million plus people. Swamiji's practical advice marks his prominence at Fortune 500 companies and renowned universities worldwide. Swamiji has inspired people all over the world. His warmth and humility touch all those who have had fortune to have his association. Our special guest for today's interaction is Devesh Mirchandani. Devesh Mirchandani is a star dancer, choreographer, and a dance instructor. He is disciple of Guru Pt.Birju ji Maharaj. Devesh is a Bollywood dance choreographer and a part of the Indian Film Dance Directors Association. Devesh is a perfectionist and is proficient in multiple dance styles such as jazz, Kathak, Bollywood, contemporary, and salsa. He has choreographed various masterpieces for reality shows such as Just Dance, Dance India Dance, and Dil Se Nache India Wale. He has also conducted workshops at Dance with Madhuri, and his choreographers are power-packed with superb moves of expression. He also runs the Devesh Mirchandani Dance Academy at Mumbai. Devesh conducts online in-person workshops. He has been in the dance industry now for 22 years and has also been teaching for 22 years. His every move is filled with energy, passion, and precision. He is a social media influencer with a combined following of more than 2 million followers. Once again, thank you for joining us. Now I hand over to Swamiji and Deveshji.
Radhe Radhe, thank you for the lovely introduction. A very big namaste and pranam to Swamiji.
Namaste, Devesh. Delighted to be with you on this program.
It's a privilege and it's an honor to even actually be able to see you, talk to you, and I think it's my lucky day today.
Oh, I remember the time when we met in Mumbai for the first time, and so happy that we have connected more deeply now.
Thank you, Swamiji. So, Swamiji, I have some questions to ask you. Firstly, I would like to thank you for this lovely Gita. It's amazing and it's so helpful for all of us. And Gita being one of my favorite books, this version is really amazing and it has everything is explained so well and it's simplified. So I think it's a perfect gift for all of us in 2022. Thank you so much, Swamiji.
Oh, Devesh, thank you for the kind words. I see it as the grace of Sri Krishna and my Guru that enabled me to explain the divine, eternal knowledge that is there.
Swamiji, my first question to you is right from success coaches to the scriptures, huge emphasis has been laid on the importance of practice. Can you please explain in your words the importance of practice as highlighted in the Bhagavad Gita?
Yes, Devesh, success coaches and guides, they realize that this mind and brain of ours is infinitely teachable. That means whatever we make it practice again and again, it takes on that form from within. Now, the Bhagavad Gita understood this nature of the mind so deeply thousands of years ago that it just doesn't fail to astonish me every time I think about it. Sri Krishna, he was the master. He explained to Arjun that look, ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसः संगस्तेषु उपजायते संगात् संजायते कामः. He said, look, Arjun, when you repeatedly practice thinking there is happiness somewhere, the mind will become attached. It will start clinging to that person or that object. That is the attachment, the asakti. So he has gone to a deeper level of the impact of practice by explaining that attachment and aversion are a consequence of practice. So that has further ramifications, of course. Wherever the mind gets attached, we will start developing those desires. The desires could be good, they could be bad. And today, neurologists are verifying that nature of the mind. Donald Hebb was a neurologist whose theory, the Hebbian theory of neural learning, has now started becoming quite famous. We have heard of the saying neurons that fire together, they wire together. So, factually, Donald Hebb postulated that whenever we do an activity, physical, mental, the neurons fire in a sequence. And when one neuron repeatedly fires the other, an organic change happens between the two, the axons connecting them, which makes it easier for the first neuron to fire the second one. And that is how learning starts happening. That means the more you keep on practicing, the more the learning happens. And he also then postulated that's what happens if you stop practicing. So he explained that those organic reactions that had happened, they start reversing and knowledge starts flying away, which our scriptures say, anabhyasena visham vidya, hyajirne bhojanam visham. If you stop practice, the skill and the art which you had accumulated will start disappearing. But then he adds a corollary to it. Now, let us say you reinstate the practice. This time, so much of effort will not be required. You'll be able to do it more easily. So, Devesh, in the field of chess, it was discovered that until the year 2000, even the world's biggest supercomputer was unable to defeat the world chess champions. And people were astonished that how do these chess champions they can defeat supercomputers? And then they discovered that they keep about 50,000 games in their head. That means they have access to 50,000 games which they are utilizing when they are playing. Of course, modern day supercomputers can do much better. So the same thing applies to art, it applies to sport. When a cricketer is the expert cricketer is playing, he has all the scenarios in his mind which he's able to access in a jiffy. And people are astonished. My God, Rohit Sharma, he flashed it so perfectly. But they don't realize the skill was acquired through practice, practice, and more practice. So, Lord Krishna has emphasized in the Bhagavad Gita this concept of abhyas.
Thank you, Swamiji. That's so informative. But my question here is because I relate everything to dance. Now, some of my students they come to me and they say it's not possible for them to practice every day because they have other activities like husbands and children's and so many other problems. Unlike me, because I'm only here to dance. I'm free. I have no other responsibilities, so I can practice every day. But a lot of people cannot, and therefore they are not able to grow in their art form in dance as fast as someone like me who can. So what is the suggestion? How can you be busy with other things and yet be able to practice or do your riyaz?
Uh, Different art forms require different levels of commitment. So, if we want to just get by, you can do casual practice. That's all right. People they play tennis all their life and they never get better. They are playing it, but they are not getting better. And if we wish to keep on progressing, we have to do something called deliberate practice. What does deliberate practice mean? That every time you go for a practice session, you go with an objective. I need to improve in these aspects of my art. And you exert yourself at that time. So you are all the mental, physical, intellectual energies are applied to it with the idea that at the end of the practice session, I will have improved in some way today. So, of course, these cricketers have their ups and downs, but I'm talking about years ago, about maybe say 8, 9 years ago, when Virat Kohli was at the top of his game, probably the top of the world as a batsman. And I just happened to read his testimonial where he had shared the way he practices. So he said, I go for net practice 2 hours every day, and I have this intention that I need to improve some aspect of my game today. That kind of commitment is what leads to growth. And then, of course, if we decide that we really want to take this up as a profession, then the practice has to be increased higher and higher and higher. It all depends that everything has a price to it. And if we want to reach that level of excellence, we have to pay the price.
So maybe we have to give up on some responsibilities or somewhere compromise with our relationships if we want to succeed in our art form. So we have to give more time to practice.
We cannot have everything in life. So our life has different aspects. We have our relationships, our health, our spiritual journey, our profession, our finances, our hobbies. So these are all the balls in the air that you are juggling as you go through life, right? So we have to decide in our value system how much important is something. If we get carried away in some practice and other aspects of our life which are critical get neglected, then it reduces the quality of our life experience. But if we decide that this art form, this skill is definitely worth acquiring, because let's say somebody feels inspired that I have been blessed with a certain amount of talent and I can make a difference in the world by growing in this talent, then it becomes worthwhile. You see, it is said that the talent we have was God's gift to us. The way we grow it and the way we utilize it to impact the lives of others, that is our gift to God. So sometimes to lead a life that aligns with our purpose and our inner motivation and our passion, we do have to make sacrifices.
Thank you, Swamiji. Swamiji, do we have to draw a lot of inner inspiration? And if that is the case, how do we do that? How do we find inspiration from within ourselves? Because I see a lot of students sometimes, because I'm teaching classical form, they give up. They're not able to
Mm,
get that inspiration. And for how long can I just inspire people? People have to find inspiration from themselves, it has to be inside them. How do you do that?
absolutely, Devesh. This is something that I feel extremely strongly about, which is our personal commitment to excellence. See, what is the difference between those who win and those who lose? It's not that the losers are poor at what they do. The losers believe in doing just so much by which they can get by. And the winners say that if anything is worth doing at all, it is worth doing well. So that mindset has to develop, because it is that mindset which makes all the difference. You know, I just got a viral video that came along in which a surgeon who just retired from a medical college, and naturally he was a very distinguished surgeon, he was sharing his own inspiration. And he was saying that when people would ask him, from whom did he learn such wonderful surgery? He said, from Lata Mangeshkar. So they would be shocked. A surgeon is saying that I learned how to cut people from Lata Mangeshkar. He said, just pay attention to the way she sings. She, every stroke or every utterance of hers is done without sparing herself, putting her best into it. So he said, just look at the way she enunciates the words. She ensures that the scale and the tal and lay are met. So likewise, I realize that every little cut can improve the surgery or reduce it. So I am also doing it to the best of my ability. This becomes an attitude, a mindset. You see, we live in a society where mediocrity is the norm, where people say, do as much chalta hai, There's a mentality, chalta hai, kya farak padta hai. But then that chalta hai mentality doesn't attract the blessings of God. And that blessing comes when we value and respect the gift, the energies we have received, and we exert ourselves to put in our best into that. So, that mindset of excellence, we can receive inspiration from a couple of outstanding people. Thomas Watson, who was the legendary CEO of IBM, he used to tell his employees, as of this moment, stop doing anything less than excellent work. Now, what a wonderful philosophy to live by, that stop doing anything less than excellent work. That is the way to lead our life. One great architect, Frank Lloyd Wright, when he made some of the most eminent monuments of the world. When he would be asked, which of these architectures is the best that you have made? He used to say, my next one. And that is the spirit of constant growth. So your question is how to inspire ourselves for it. It requires a strong why. When you are convinced about the importance of something, you know then you are filled with the motivation, with the passion, with the inspiration that makes all the difference. So the same principle applies even in our spiritual journey, even in bhakti, even in the practice of yoga. Maharshi Patanjali, in the Yoga Sutras, he says, look, there are three kinds of sadhaks. Mridu madhyadi matratva tatopi vishesha. The lowest are the chalta hai types. They never succeed because they always get obstructed by the tiniest obstacles. And then the madhya say, okay, I'll give it my best, but the moment some kind of challenge comes, they lose heart. And Visheshaha, who are so inspired that they just go beyond all obstacles. And that is what is required for success in yoga and also for success in mastering any art or any skill.
I think that's why Arjun had the blessings of Lord Krishna, since he was the excellent archer. Okay, my next question to you.
Devesh, you've brought up a very interesting point. Jayadratha, he asked Dronacharya, then Gurudev, I was your disciple and Arjun was also your disciple. So why is it that Arjun received so many blessings and I did not? There was, of course, later on a battle between the two of them as well. So Dronacharya said, Jayadratha, you were diligent, and whatever I would teach, you would study it well and master it. But Arjun was so inspired that not only would he learn everything I did, he would also connect the dots and he would also go beyond. And that is what attracted the divine grace, the special blessings.
Swamiji, according to you, who do you think was the great archer, Arjun or Karna?
Okay, so Devesh, it's a very interesting question. There is no doubt that Karn was such a master. The Pandavas, for them, he was invincible. However, there was one factor in which Karn lost out. This is my own estimation as a spiritualist. The bhav. It is not just the art form or the skill. It is also the bhav, the sentiment, the intention behind it. So Karn was not offering his archery, his skill to the Supreme, whereas Arjun was. For Arjun, his archery was a form of worship. So Sri Krishna says in the Gita, Yat karoshi yadashnasi yad juhosi dadasi yat. Look, Arjun, whatever you do, you make it an offering to the divine. So one is the skill, and the second is the bhav or the sentiment behind it, which completes the whole process. And then it becomes an offering, a puja of the Lord.
Thank you, Swamiji. So, as much practice is a boon, practicing the wrong thing over and over again can be decremental. What does Bhagavad Gita talk about this? Because I see a lot of students who come to me, they have learned from somewhere, and I think they are the posture, the footwork, the ang is not correct. And it takes a lot of time for me to undo that on their body and then to teach what I have to. So I think I want your opinion about this. What is it? Why is it so wrong? Because practicing the wrong thing over and over again can be really, really bad.
Yes, Devesh, see, we've all heard that story of the student who went to the music teacher and he said, how long will it take? The teacher said, it will take 2 years. And he said, but I've already practiced for 1 year. And then the teacher said, in that case, it'll take 3 years, 1 year to erase your practice, and then 2 years to teach you again. Right? So the Gita also talks about this. Now, the habit forming nature of the mind and the brain is there. The habits can work to our benefit or to our detriment. So, if we practice wrongly, that bad habit can grip our mind. That is exactly what happens with addicts. A few times they take a few puffs or a few joints, etc. Now, at that time, they feel it is harmless. And before they realize it, the addiction has started gripping them. And later on, when they become derelicts and you ask them, the first time you indulged, did you realize you would reach this state? They say, no, no, absolutely not. I would never have started. So those bad habits, they come so slowly. So Sri Krishna talks about it. I mentioned to you the first verse of the habit forming nature, which Sri Krishna said, Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsa. So he said, Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha Kamat Krodho Bhijayate Krodhat Bhavati Sammoha Sammohat Smriti Vibhramaha Smriti Bhranshat Buddhinasho Buddhinashat Pranashyati. So many ill effects. He says, look, if you start contemplating happiness in the wrong places, that's the mental practice, right? Oh, there's happiness there, there's happiness. Your mind will cling to the wrong things. And then what will happen? You will experience yearning for those things that are unholy, unauspicious. And then when you get them, the addiction will increase. And if you don't get them, it will lead to anger and frustration. And the frustration will ruin your intellect. Then your memory will be lost. And when the memory is lost, the intellect is ruined, the soul will suffer a downfall. So Sri Krishna says that look, habits are an aspect of your human personality. Be very careful to establish good habits. It is said that bad habits come easily, but they are difficult to live with. And good habits need to be worked upon, but they make life such a joy and worth living.
One more question is popping up while you're talking about all this. Since we
Yes.
spoke about practice and since we were talking about Karna has had practiced his knowledge, his education all his life. He excelled in it. But when the time came for him to actually use his knowledge and to save himself, everything went away. So, what about all the practice that he did?
Uh, our practice, Devesh, can take us thus far. And there is one gap, that X factor, which requires grace, divine grace, isn't it? When you have grace, then even if you make mistakes, God takes you over across the finishing line. If you don't have grace, then you're putting in your best and the finish line doesn't come, right? So I would say that the grace eluded him. For some reason, he was not having that grace which Arjun was having.
Swamiji, how do we measure our practice? Has it benefited us or not? How can we measure it, especially for sadhana and devotion?
How can we measure our practice? Hmm.
Whether it has benefited us or not, how do we measure it?
In you are now asking in terms of sadhana and devotion. Okay, so see what is the consequence of practice. The consequence should be that there is a reason for getting angry, and yet I'm not feeling angry because I have done so much of mental practice that I am able to maintain my poise in the situation. Somebody is repeatedly irritating, and yet I retain the control over my mind. That is the sign of progress. Where there's a reason to feel hatred, and yet I'm not feeling hatred. There's a reason to be attached, and yet I'm not attached. There's a reason to be proud. Everybody is saying Devesh is so good, Devesh is so great, Devesh is so wonderful, and you hear it all, and yet you feel no pride. That is the sign that you've done a lot of spiritual practice, and you now have control over the state of your mind.
Guruji, spiritual practice, does it mean that we have to go to the temple on Saturdays or Mondays? And if you don't go one day, then something terrible happens and you have to fast regularly. And in the evening, you have to light an agarbatti and all of that. Is that because I know some people who do all of that and they don't follow dharma, they do adharma. And there are
Hmm.
people who don't do that, but they do good things and good things happen to them.
Yes, yes. So, on this question of yours, Devesh, what we need to do is distinguish between spirituality and religion. So, religion is the customs, the traditions, the do's and the don'ts. These traditions that are coming down from generation to generation, the external practices. And spirituality is the internal purification. So, to decorate our body with sacred marks and with holy shawls, etc., that is religion. To decorate our soul with divine virtues, that is spirituality. To go to the four dhams, the four holy places, or the Jyotirlings, etc., that is religion. And to go on an inner journey of our own soul, that is spirituality. To bathe in the holy Ganga and cleanse ourselves from the outside is religion. And to cleanse our mind with pure and sublime thoughts, that is spirituality. So, religion nowadays is viewed with great suspicion by the younger generation. They have completely rejected the religious practices of the elders. And if you ask them that, do you do anything? They say, I'm spiritual. So I don't need to go to the temple because I'm spiritual. But in 99 out of 100 cases, they don't even remember God at their home. They don't even go to the temple. So practically it becomes an excuse to do nothing, right? So these external customs, one must not get caught up in them. Otherwise, they become counterproductive. One should not lose sight of the goal. Otherwise, they become an encumbrance. But the reason why they were given or they were stated in the scriptures was that most of society is not at that point where they can catch the inner practices. Well, something is better than nothing. Let them do the externals. And one day they will realize, the purpose of it was that I need to purify myself. And then they'll come to the essence of it, which is spiritual practices.
Thank you so much, Swamiji. Practice has a lot to do with tolerating short term pain in anticipation of long term happiness. Can you elaborate on that?
Hmm. Yes. We are practicing to achieve perfection. Now, anything that we wish to accomplish requires a price to be paid. Let us say that you have a student in your academy that you teach, or you're conducting classes for JK Yoga, and somebody says, "Wow, Devesh is a national star and so famous, and I wish to become like Devesh." Now they need to understand there's a price to be paid for it, right? So, first of all, decide what is the price to be paid for this. The second, go ahead and pay the price. So, mastery is not like going to a restaurant, having a feast, and then paying the bill later on. You have to pay up first, and then comes the feast, right? So, now what happens out here in practice is that the mind, the intellect, the senses, they rebel. Their natural propensity is for gratification, for pleasure, and practice is often painful. So you have to fight against the natural propensity of the senses, mind, and the intellect. And that is where the ability to tolerate pain becomes so important. One of my favorite examples is of Edwin Moses. So, Edwin Moses, in the 1980s, he was the athlete with 122 successive victories. That was a record in track and field. His event was 400 meters hurdles. He was a Black American. And he was in the Hall of Fame, etc. And then when journalists would ask him that, what is the secret of your success? He would say, I have a greater ability to tolerate pain than the others do. So that is exactly what it is. That when you go in for deliberate practice and the mind and senses scream, come on, I'd rather watch a movie. Say, no, I will tolerate the pain because I wish to master this, no matter what it takes. So that is an essential part. But we've been conditioned that pain is something bad and you need to run the other way the moment you see pain, right? So even the medical science says, okay, you got this pain, immediately just take an ibuprofen and get rid of the pain. But that pain has to be made a part of our life. When we wanted to excel in our studies, we had to tolerate the pain of doing it. And if we did not, then we would have to tolerate the pain of being uneducated all our life. If somebody wants to get their body in shape, then they have to go on a diet. It's painful. But the other option is then the pain of ill health, right? So either way, either you go for pain right now for achieving fulfillment in the future, or you avoid pain right now and live to regret it all our life. If we can develop that mindset that it doesn't matter if it's painful, if this is according to my values, if it is something I wish to achieve, then I'll go ahead and do it. Then that mindset takes us higher and higher in our art or craft.
Swamiji, while I was reading the Gita, Lord Krishna is talking about love and attachment, pyar and moh. So, what is the difference? Isn't attachment and also love, or an outcome of love, or is love an outcome of compassion? How is love and attachment? How are they different?
Attachment is the word for it is asakti or the clinging of the mind. And love, actually, Devesh, is used so much in the world, but factually, this love is a divine energy. We talk about bhakti, and that energy, when it comes in the heart, it is the highest thing. So, love includes attachment of the mind, but it is so much more. Where there is love, there is infinite forgiveness. Mere attachment may not include it. Where there is love, there is absolute patience. प्रियतम नहीं आए हम निराश नहीं होंगे. We will be willing to keep on waiting. Where there is love, there is understanding. Where there is love, there is sacrifice. You are willing to sacrifice. So, this process of giving, this is what love is all about. Love is such a wonderful thing. If we have it, we have everything. Attachment, on the other hand, is it could be a part of love, but it could happen even without that true love. Somebody gets attached to ice cream, so somebody gets attached in the family, and then they get upset, and then next day they are detached. Okay, so attachment is one aspect of the state of the mind.
In the Gita, Sri Krishna says that if your intellect is many branched, you cannot attain me. Focus is extremely important for becoming a master in any craft. How to develop that one point focus, Swamiji?
Yes. So Sri Krishna has emphasized on focus so much. He keeps on telling Arjun, you must have complete focus. This, it is said, I like putting it like this, that focus is our ability to keep the beam of our attention on the object of our choice. The quality of our focus and the object we focus upon determines the quality of our life. Somebody may have unwavering focus, but it's on something so puny, then the life is not rich. And somebody may focus on something that is worthwhile, but the mind remains distracted, then also life quality suffers. So the object of the focus must be worthy, and the ability to hold the mind at it must also be unwavering. That kind of focus, Devesh, is very much like a muscle. And like the bodily muscles are developed through repeated practice, focus also requires repeated practice. So when students tell me that Swamiji, when we study, our mind goes here and there, how will we develop focus? I tell them, look, here's a simple solution. Every time the mind goes away, you bring it back. That's all the practice there is. Every time it goes away, you bring it back. And that exercise enhances your focus. So Lord Krishna tells Arjun the same thing. When Sri Krishna, Arjun says, "Oh Sri Krishna, my mind is so distracted. It seems that it is more fickle than the wind." Now the wind, we all know, is uncontrollable, and Arjun is comparing the mind state with the wind. But Sri Krishna, he says, Arjun, you're very right. The mind is difficult to control. So he is admitting Arjun's problem. And then the solution he gives, abhyas and vairagya. Vairagya is the opposite of attachment. Detach yourself. So pull your mind away and abhyas. Put it on the subject you wish to focus upon, which in this case is God. So one is the practice, and the second is the purity. If the mind is pure, it will naturally remain undistracted. And when the mind is impure, then 1,000 hankerings and aversions will keep on disturbing it. So while everybody talks about developing focus, as a spiritual teacher, I'm telling you that real focus comes when you purify the mind. And that is done through bhakti or loving devotion.
Swamiji, in chapter 9, verse 22, Sri Krishna says, "Think of me always." Always is a very powerful word. How can we implement this instruction practically?
Yes, Devesh, always, my God, Sri Krishna wants the ultimate immersive experience. See, how did you master your art? You immersed yourself in it, right? When my guru, he called me over to his ashram. So he said, I will teach you the Vedic scriptures. And then he told me when he said, okay, now start. And he said, you will be doing it all the time. When you go to the washroom, you'll be thinking about it. When you're eating, you'll be thinking about it. 12 hours a day should be study with the books, and the rest of the time, you must be thinking about it. So he said that kind of immersive experience will make the knowledge stick inside and enable you to digest it. And that is what brings about the huge transformation that we want. And Sri Krishna is, he demands, the ultimate excellence. So he wants Arjun to reach that level of perfection. He says, Bhai dekho, aadha kaam nahi chalega. I want you to be perfect. So for that, you have to immerse yourself completely. No compromises, he says, Arjun. Mam ekam sharanam raja. Your surrender will have to be complete. And for that, you will have to absolutely absorb yourself. And that is why he tells Arjun, think of me always. So now the question is that if we are thinking of Sri Krishna always, then how do we practice our art? Right. Now, let's say that you have Arjun was practicing his archery, but you are practicing your dance. And at the same time, think of Sri Krishna. So, won't it like make the steps misfire? Well, see, there are two ways of doing our spiritual practice or devotion. The first is to sit and think of Bhagavan. And the second is to think what I'm doing is for his sake. And the second practice, though it doesn't seem so attractive, factually it is more powerful than the first one. So if you are just sitting and thinking of God, or if you are doing something for the sake of God, that second one is more powerful. So make your work a worship. And when he's telling Arjun to think of me always, he's also telling Arjun to fight, to do both things together. Sarveshu kaleshu ma manusmara and yudhya cha. At all times remember me and do your duty. So the duty is done with that underlying intention. I am doing it for the Supreme Almighty. Let me give it my all. And when that motivation is there, you automatically stop compromising. You automatically hold yourself to higher levels of exertion. And then the best comes out in our devotion as well. So that is what the Gita is teaching us. And that is also called Karma Yoga.
Swamiji, when I'm dancing, I'm always thinking of Lord Krishna. I think I think only when I'm dancing I'm thinking of Lord Krishna. But now while listening to you, I'm thinking, will it be appropriate if I think of Krishna when I'm in toilet?
Initially, you may hesitate, and initially you may feel it is not appropriate. These states cannot be imitated. But when you reach that level of union with Krishna, the stage will come when you say that everything is for his sake. If I am visiting the toilet, it's only to take care of my body so that I can be done with it and then continue with my work with this body to keep serving Krishna, right? For now, you just focus on thinking of Krishna when you are doing your dance and take out some time in the day to also charge up your batteries where you sit and meditate upon it.
Talking about meditation, Swamiji, I've tried a lot. I think for 10 seconds I'm focused, and the 11th second I'm thinking of my choreography and the class that I'm supposed to take. And I'm supposed to do this event and that and so many things, and it's that whole meditation is gone, and I'm off my meditation mat, the yoga mat. I leave it and I'm back to work. So that
Yes.
that control on the mind and stability is, I don't know
No,
how to
it
do
is
that.
good to have your own practice of meditation because if you master it, it will help you in your art as well. It will give you enhance your mind control. It will enhance your focus. It will enhance your motivation. It will just lift up your consciousness. So you must try and master meditation. People are meditating in a variety of ways. The way I teach is called Rupa Dhyan meditation. Visualize the image of Krishna. Okay, so now for an artist like yourself, that's quite easy because you are a visual person, right? So visualize that Krishna is there and you are dancing to entertain him. You're dancing to please him. Let that be your meditation. Or you can even say, think that he is dancing with you. He danced in the Maharaj with the gopis. So when you make the image of Krishna as the basis of your meditation, that becomes Rup Dhyan meditation. Now the mind has something to rest upon. It rests more easily. So step one, bring the image of your worshipable deity in front. And step two, you start thinking of his qualities. He's infinitely beautiful, kind, compassionate. He's my eternal relative. I wish to grow my loving devotion. You pray to him, you cry to him. In this way, you make meditation a lively experience.
That way, I think, Swamiji, I'm meditating every day for hours, because whenever I'm dancing, I'm always thinking I'm dancing for him and pleasing him. Sometimes when I fall short of choreography, I'm thinking what will make him happy. So if that is meditation, then I think I'm doing the right thing. But I always thought meditation is like sitting like this and close your eyes, and you should not think of anything else. So
See,
maybe I was doing
Deve,
something.
it's a very common notion about meditation, which you have talked about, where they try and kill the mind. So the concept is man kumar to beda par. But God did not give us this mind that we kill it. We misused the mind. And when we misuse the mind started troubling us. So now we say the mind is a bad thing and I need to stop thinking. So if you stop thinking, then you stop bringing noble and sublime thoughts to yourself. And a better way, which is the devotional path, is use the mind, but make your mind Krishnamay. So make all your thoughts connected to Krishna. And that is what the Bhakti Darshan says, that when you have this loving devotion, that divine love, then every thought in your mind will be connected with the Lord, with Krishna.
Swamiji, I have one last question. In one of
Okay.
your courses on 7 mindsets in Udemy, I have heard that this world is our practice ground simulator for our life in Golok. That was very interesting. Can you please elaborate in the context of Bhagavad Gita?
Okay. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna tells Arjun, Yad yad vibhuti mat sattvam Shri Madurjitameva va tattadevavagachatvam mama tejonsha sambhavam. He says, Arjun, everything that you find glorious in this world, just understand it is a spark of my splendor. So he first of all he explains to Arjun that he is the gravity of the ocean and the splendor of the Himalayas, etc., etc. In numerous ways he talks about his glories. Then he says, Arjun, what is the point in explaining all this? Just understand by the spark of my splendor I illumine all the worlds. And then he says, Athava bahunaitena kim gyatena tavarjana vishthabhyahmidam kritsna mekanshena sthito jagat. All of this is just held in 1/4 of my being. So this universe and innumerable universes like this. Even science now accepts multiverse theory. All of these are in 1/4 of Sri Krishna's being, and 3/4 is his divine creation, which is Golok. So, if this material world was all that God created, then he did a terrible job, because all these problems, etc. This is only the simulator where the souls are learning how to perfect themselves. And then Golok, his divine abode, is where the perfected souls are, which he says in the Gita that Arjun, once having gone there, you will never come back again. So there, everybody is full of divine love. Everybody is just engaged in loving pastime and service. Now, if we are not qualified for it and we go to that place, we will feel completely suffocated. Just like when I give discourses on spirituality, and sometimes some parents bring their teenage child, come on, you have to listen to Swamiji. And that teenage child comes, but sitting out there, they get so bored. By the end of it, they start fighting with their parents. Why did you bring me to this place? Right? Because the consciousness doesn't match. Swamiji is talking about life transformation and they're interested in the pizzas. Likewise, if we go to Golok right now, it will just not work. So Krishna has kept this as the preparation ground. And what I said in my discourse was that when you want to learn driving, in US they have these simulators. And as for astronauts also it's a common thing. Where before putting you into space, they get you to practice in the simulator where you perfect yourself. And that is why here we have a chance. We make mistakes and we correct ourselves. We are still WIPs, works in progress. And when we qualify for it, then he will naturally, that's how the universe works. Whatever you are qualified for, you're put into that place. We will naturally become eligible for the divine service in Golok.
That was so great, informative, and very helpful. I think for the dance community, especially when where you spoke about practice, and I think it has just opened up my mind. I've learned so much. Guruji, I just want to ask you one last question. This I had not planned, but it just came to my mind. Talking about dance and gurus and students, especially in classical form, in classical art form, this happens. A lot of teachers that I see, and I have also faced that, a lot of teachers are hesitant to give out enough knowledge to a capable student. Now when I read Mahabharata and when I read all these scriptures, I see how Guru Dronacharya has given all his knowledge to all his students equally. but Arjun,
Mm.
being the most capable, could take the maximum out of it. But nowadays, in today's time, in classical field especially, classical teachers do not give enough knowledge to somebody who's capable.
Mm.
What would you advise to them?
Yes, Devesh, it is like playing the king of the hill. They feel threatened that if my student becomes better than me, then what will happen? So the sense of insecurity that is why many people in sharing secrets, they hold back. And why do they hold back? For self-interest. And that leads to a sense of insecurity, a fear of being outdone. However, a true guru would have none of that, because the true guru is beyond self interest. The true guru is doing the teaching as an act of love. That is why it is said that just as the father is delighted when in business his son outshines him, the guru is delighted when his disciple, in the act of preaching the knowledge, outshines him. A true guru would find that thrilling. Now, your question was that what should the message be to gurus who don't have that realization? Well, it's a simple principle of nature. That whatever we start giving to others, the universe keeps on adding to us automatically. Saint Kabir says, "Daan diye dhan na ghate, नदी घटे न नीर अपने हाथ देख लो यों क्या कहे कबीर." He says that take a look at this, at the stream. People keep taking water out of it, but the stream never dwindles. Creation makes up for it. Likewise, if you give in charity, your treasure chest will be filled by the Lord. And same applies even more to knowledge. The more you start giving away knowledge, the more Sri Krishna fills knowledge in your heart so you can give more and more and more. We need faith in this principle, and then we will not hold back.
Thank you so much, Swamiji. I'm delighted and I'm so happy to speak to you.
Oh, Devesh, it has been a pleasure understanding and discussing the Gita from the perspective of an artist. So you see, this knowledge is so amazing that people learn how to play cricket from it. They learned Bal Gangadhar Tilak. He launched the freedom movement based on the Gita, and now we have got in that same tradition somebody who has got dance lessons from the wisdom of the Gita. Thank you very much, Devesh.
Thank you, Swamiji. I couldn't thank you that day when I met you. Thank you for signing these books. These books are amazing, and it's really helped a lot. Everyone in my family, we are reading these books of yours.
Okay, delighted to hear that. My best wishes and my blessings to all your family members.
Thank you, Swamiji. Thank you.
Namaste.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe.